Welcome back, guys. Today I'll be breaking down the 2023 PDC qualification schools. In the past, I've followed along and saw who won at the end of each day, but I really didn't know what was going on or the format, how many spots were open, stuff like that. So I'm going to break it down for you. I'm going to start by breaking down the Pro Tour and how tour cards work and kind of explain the need for Q School each year. Then we're going to get right into 2023 Q School, the locations, dates, format, any notable entrants to the tournament, and then I'm going to show you how to follow along live for each stage of the tournament. Let me give you a quick breakdown of the Pro Tour and how tour cards work, and by the end of it you'll have a pretty good idea about why they have Q School every year and how many tour cards are available, which varies year to year. After Q School each year, there are 128 players with tour cards. I believe this number was chosen just due to its simplicity in terms of setting up a tournament bracket. Having a tour card gets you access to playing in the 30 Players Championship tournaments throughout the year, along with a bunch of qualifiers to get into bigger tournaments. If you do play well in the Players Championship matches, they have a 1-year rolling Pro Tour Order of Merit, and if you can get into the top 16 or top 32 of that, you get invited to a lot of the bigger majors, like the Worlds, the Grand Prix, and the World Match Play. So the PDC Order of Merit is the world rankings for darts, and it's based on the total winnings a player has throughout a rolling 2-year period. So for example, in the case of Gerwin Price, he was world number 1 before the World Championships. He was defending £500,000 that he won 2 years ago. He did not win the tournament, so he lost a bunch of money on his rankings, and he's now in world number 4. This is constantly going on throughout each tournament throughout the year. However you did 2 years previous, it gets taken off your rankings, and you need to defend that money in order to stay up in the rankings. At the end of each year, after the World Championships, the top 64 players in the main PDC Order of Merit get a 1-year tour card. Everyone else loses their tour card unless they just received a 2-year tour card at the beginning of the season and they're going into their second year. There's 3 different ways you can get a 2-year tour card. The first is through Q School. The next is through winning the UK or European Challenge Tour. And the third is through winning the UK or European Development Tour. If you haven't heard of the Challenge Tour, it's open to all players that attended Q School for that season and didn't obtain a card. The Development Tour is open to all players ages 16 to 23, and this can include tour card holders that are within this age range. The only restriction is that they can't be in the top 32 ranked players in the world. As I mentioned before, the top 64 players each year, based on the Order of Merit, automatically get a 1-year tour card. In rare instances, players without a tour card throughout the year can win enough money to actually be in this top 64 and obtain a 1-year tour card without going to Q School or winning the Challenge Tour or the Development Tour. Christoph Rotowski and Joe Mernon have done it in the past, and this year Scott Williams has done it. It's not easy, but Scott Williams was given a few chances to play in Players Championship matches because he was at the top of the Challenge Tour Order of Merit, and he ended up winning one of those. He also made it to 2 Euro Tours through associate member qualifiers, ended up making it to the 3rd round. Winning that Players Championship automatically qualified Scott for the Grand Slam, and winnings from that tournament put Scott into the top 32 players based on the Pro Tour Order of Merit for that year, which got him qualified for the World Championships. With his first round win in the Worlds, he ended up becoming the 57th ranked player in the world, below the 64 mark, and he ended up getting a 1-year tour card for this upcoming year. Pretty incredible, to be honest. So at the end of each year, the top 64 players get a 1-year tour card, and there's a certain amount of players from the Challenge Development Tours and from Q School the previous year that are going into their second year of their tour card. So looking at players that are going into their second year of their 2-year tour card, there's 30 players from 2022 Q School that are outside of the top 64, along with 3 players that got their card in 2022 from winning the 2021 Challenge or Development Tours. The last 4 players that have a card before Q School are the 2 Challenge Tour winners and the 2 Development Tour winners from the 2022 season. It's Robert Owen, Danny Van Tripp, Geert Netjes, and Jeroen van der Velde. These 4 are on their first year of their 2-year tour cards. Adding that all up, there's 101 players with cards already for 2023, with only 128 cards being available for the year. That means there's only 27 spots available at 2023 Q School. Now that we went over the need for Q School, which took way longer than I thought, let's get into the details for the 2023 Q Schools, the locations, dates, and format of the tournaments. There's both a UK and European Q Schools. I believe if you're living in the UK and in a few surrounding countries, you're allowed to attend the UK Q School, and everyone else has to go to the European Q School. They're both taking place Monday, January 9th through Sunday, January 15th. The UK Q School is taking place at Marshall Arena in Milton Keynes, UK. And the European Q School is taking place at Wonderland, which is in Kalkar, Germany. The UK Q School has 411 total entries, European Q School having 450. Looking at this number, 861 total entrants and only 27 available tour cards. That's pretty tough. Each Q School has the exact same format, just a different number of players, so I'm going to break it down in general. The first 3 days of play is used to narrow down the field to 128 players for the final stage. Players that just lost their tour cards at the end of this past season, along with players in the top 16 order of merit for the challenge and development tours for last year, are all automatically exempt from the first stage and put into the final stage. Each day during the first 3 days, there's one large tournament with all entrants, except for the ones that are already exempt to the final stage. Each win for a player counts as 1 point towards their first stage order of merit. The final 8 players from each day are automatically moved on to the final stage and don't have to play again until day 4. And the rest of the 128 spots is filled in directly by first 3-day order of merit. So whichever players have the most wins within those 3 days that never made it to the top 8. So looking at the numbers, there's 24 players exempt to the final round already for UK Q School. And if we add the 24 quarterfinalists, that's 48 players, leaving only 80 spots out of 387 for people to actually make it to the final stage. A little bit less than 80% of people are going to be cut off right off the bat. For European Q School, there's 15 people already exempt to the final stage, along with the 24 quarterfinalists. That's 39 players out of the 128. That's 435 entrants playing for 89 spots. So it's not easy even getting to the final round of Q School, let alone making it to the final stage of Q School and winning one of the 128 player tournaments. Days 4 through 7 is where the fight for the 27 tour cards begin. At each school over the 4 days, there's a 128 person tournament, the winner of each one winning a tour card. So that's 8 tour cards given out over that 4-day period, and then the other 19 cards are given out based on the order of merit for those 4 days. Each match is played best of 11 legs, with each win counting as 1 point, similar to the first stage. Other than the 4 daily winners, there's going to be 9 cards available at the UK Q School based on the order of merit from the final 4 days, and 10 cards available at the European Q School for the final 4 days. This is just based on the fact that there's more entrants in the European Q School, so they get that extra card. So when you think about it, there's 128 players at each school. Only 13 get cards out of the 128 at UK Q School, and 14 get cards out of the 128 at European Q School. So it's not easy. So I took a look at all the registered players, and here's a few notable players that registered for each Q School. UK Q School, we have Fallon Sherrick, Lisa Ashton, Danny Lauby from USA, Leighton Bennett, he's the young star, Ryan Finesse, Graham Hall, Josh Payne, all great players from this year's Moda Super Series. Andy Hamilton, World Championship finalist at one point. Jamie Lewis and Adam Smith-Neal. I think those players should do pretty well and at least make it to the final 128. European Q School, we have Alex Spellman, who's from the USA. Corey Cadby, who hasn't been on scene in a while. He's from Australia. Jel Klaassen, Nico Kurz, Wesley Plaisier, Diogo Portela, Benito Vandepas, Richard Vienstra, Lucas Wenig, and Grant Sampson, who beat Keen Barry in the first round of the World Championships this past year. Notable players not registered. Bo Greaves, I didn't see her on there. I'd be surprised if she didn't. Maybe her management told her she was too young to take another year on tour just with the women's series. But then we have Danny Baggish and Leonard Gates, both USA players. Baggish just lost his tour cards. Maybe he needs some time off, or I just didn't see his name on the list. And Jose Justicia, I was expecting his name to be on the list, but I know he's caught up in some criminal proceedings for potentially assaulting someone at the Spanish Open last October. If you guys wanted to follow along live for all the matches, you could just go to tv.dartconnect.com, search PDC events, and the UK and EUQ schools should show up. Stage 1, Event 1 for Monday, January 9th. That's going to be it, guys. But let me know who you think is going to win a tour card this year, all right? Later.